all are present, so we will start our webinar within few minutes. Welcoming you all. This is for the participants. Participants, kindly turn off your audio and video. I request all the participants to kindly turn off your audio and video buttons. Thank you. Good evening to one and all. Respected guests, all the eminent resource persons, respected principals, Father Jolly Andrews. Good evening to one and all. So, the program. Okay, so this is for the kind attention of participants. All of you kindly turn off your audio and video buttons. Thank you. Good evening to one and all. We, the Department Christ College Irinjalakuda, is very happy to welcome you all to the one-day international webinar on new business environment, challenges, opportunities, and strategies. Let us start the program with a silent prayer. Thank you all. We have with us our dear head of the department, Reverend Sister Rosie Vio. I welcome Sister for the welcome speech.
Department of Economics, Christ College, Irinjalakuda. Most respected Principal, Reverend Dr. Jolie Andrews, respected keynote speakers, Dr. Justin Paul and Dr. Sangeeta K. Pradap, faculty members from different colleges, and my dear friends. Business environment plays a key role in shaping the business decisions and strategies. A series of discussions would happening on the impact of COVID-19 on business around the world. Baseline forecasts of revenue and costs are tough, and who knows whether a second wave or a buzzing will change everything on short order. We organized this webinar to throw some light on how the global business in today's scenario will look like. With great privilege and gratitude, I am honored to welcome Dr. Jolie Andrews, Principal, Christ College Irinjalakuda, who is delivering inaugural address. We are lucky enough to have a very enthusiastic person and also a good initiator as our principal. Father, with immense pleasure, I welcome you. Here, we have a very eminent resource person and alumnus of Christ College Irinjalakuda, Dr. Justin Paul. Currently serves as Editor-in-Chief of International Journal of Consumer Studies, a former faculty member with the University of Washington, and Professor of PhD and MBA programs, University of Puerto Rico, USA. He holds 2 honorary titles as Distinguished Scholar and Distinguished Professor with an Indian Institute of Management and as IBM Premier Business School in South Asia. He has served as a lead guest editor with the International Business Review, Journal of Business Research, Journal of Retailing and Consumer Services, and a number of other journals. He has published over 150 research papers. He has also served as a faculty member of Nagoya University, Japan, and IIM. We are very happy and proud that we have with us our own alumnus as our resource person. And on behalf of all, I extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Justin Paul.
Thank you.
It's my great pleasure to welcome Dr. Sangeeta K. Pratap, Assistant Professor, School of Management Studies, Cochin University of Science and Technology, Kerala, India. She has been formerly working as an Assistant Professor at Agriculture University, Kerala, and as a faculty to Institute of Corporate Management, Trivandrum. She has an experience of more than 10 years in broad areas of research, training, and teaching. She has undertaken several funded projects and also have worked as a part of entrepreneurship projects of Agriculture University, Kerala. She has also established an entrepreneurship cell at School of Management Studies, Gujarat, for encouraging the students to transform job seekers to job givers. Respected ma'am, you to this webinar.
Thank you, ma'am.
This international webinar has become meaningful with the participation from different parts of the world. With utmost respect, I welcome all the participants to this webinar. Once again, I thank you for receiving our invitation and being with us today. Wishing you all very informative and wonderful session ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sister. We have with us our principal, Reverend Father Dr. Jolly Andrews, Principal and Chairman, Webinar, Christ College, Irinjalakuda. Father is always with us in all our initiatives with his full support and guidance. With full respect, I welcome you, Father, for the inaugural address.
Okay, can you see me and can you hear me?
Yes, Father.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The resource persons of the day, Dr. Justin Paul, Professor from the University of PR, San Juan, PR, USA. Dr. Sangeeta K. Pratap from the School of Management Studies, Gujarat, Kochi. The convener of the program, Sister Rosie Vio. The HOD, the Department of Economics. Organizing Secretary of the webinar, Dr. Franco T. Francis. Host of the webinar, Ms. Professor Jean Maria George. Faculty members who are participating in this webinar, research scholars, and my dear friends. This webinar is being mainly dealing with the new business environment, the challenges, opportunities, and the strategies in the new time of COVID-19. We know the international economic scenario is moving through a special or a specific manner where it has never gone through before. The whole world is facing a crisis, especially through a pandemic. And the economic impact of this COVID-19 has got its own implications. There are many opportunities that have positively appeared. There are many repercussions as far as the economy has been concerned, the side effects, the negative traits that we can see as far as the economic scenario has been concerned in the wake of this COVID-19. The world has changed a lot. We have changed a lot. And we are here in a Google Meet, a YouTube platform. We wouldn't have been here in this particular manner if there was in a COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of opportunities have appeared. The people will not think the same manner again. Once this, even if this COVID-19 is wiped out, which we are sure we will wipe out because of the united effort of the humanity, we will be able to overcome this pandemic in a positive manner. But our thinking pattern, the way we come together to synergize our ideas, the way we have to formulate new policies, the methodology of our coming together, all would differ. Perhaps I would say this COVID-19 has taught us many lessons, and without which we would now come together in this manner also. We got two eminent scholars who would be addressing us. And happy to note that one is our own prestigious alumni, Dr. Justin Paul, and the other one is from the CUSAD, Dr. Sangeeta K. Pradap, who would be leading us as far as this particular scenario has been concerned. This new business environment has been concerned.
90% പേടിക്കേണ്ട ആവശ്യമില്ല ടീച്ചറെ. കാരണം ഇവരും എന്താണ് ആ പോസിറ്റീവായ ആള് 5-ാം തീയതി എന്തോ ആണ് ഡ്യൂട്ടിക്ക് വന്നത്.
No problem. Okay, no problem. Thank you. So, a word also about the Christ College, Irinjalakuda, before we actually move on to the formal sessions. We know this Christ College, Irinjalakuda, its inception in 1956 by the Padma Bhushan, Father Gabriel, who himself was a legendary, I would say, priest, who took all the initiatives so that we have become, in a way, the epicenter of the academic progress and research has been concerned. Now, this Christ College has been managed by Carmelites of Mary Immaculate, CMI, a indigenous religious congregation which was founded by St. Kuriakos Elias Chavra, a saintly priest who always saw education as a tool of enlightenment and empowerment. Now we can say that we have got perhaps the largest enrollment as far as the student ratio has been, student number of the students has been concerned. Last year there were around 3,800 students who were studying in our college, and this year we think that we will be around the threshold of 4,000. Perhaps the largest number of the students as far as in college has been concerned in the scenario of the Kerala. Now, we are happy to say, I'm happy to note that the Department of Economics have come together, and this, I think, is not the first international webinar which they are hosting. I'm happy that a lot many people are joining this webinar because of the quality of the program which they are offering. So my best wishes and sincere appreciation to the Department of Economics, Professor Sister Rosie, who is heading the department, the Dr. Franco, who is the secretary of this program, Jean Maria George, Professor Jean Maria George, who is hosting this program, and all the other members of the faculty. I wish you all the best. Have a wonderful session. Let us come together and formulate new ideas that will enlighten not just us, but our nation and perhaps the whole world. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, Father, for your kind words. Now it's time for the most awaited sessions of the day. We have with us two eminent resource persons, Dr. Justin Paul and Dr. Sangeeta K. Pradap. Firstly, I would like to welcome Dr. Justin Paul, Professor, University of PR, San Juan, USA, Editor-in-Chief, International Journal of Consumer Studies, and Distinguished Professor at IIM and SIBM. Department of Economics, Christ College is very proud to have our own alumni with us as our resource person of the day. With great pleasure and pride, we welcome you, sir, for this session.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Christ College Irinjalakuda Principal and Department Head and other faculty members, including Professor Jean Maria, for inviting me for this session. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we have limited time, and I will try my best to deliver something useful and something informative for the benefit. I'm not sure how many of, I think I see 121 people attending this seminar. So we have to deliver maximum. Okay, so let me, so where is the screen sharing? Okay. Trying to share my screen. Can you see my PowerPoint now?
Yes, sir, it's coming.
Okay, it's coming, right? Okay. Okay.
I see, okay.
Yeah. So I will try to talk about new business environment challenges, opportunities, and strategies. As mentioned by Reverend Father Jolie Andrews, we witness a lot of changes in the global economy these days. The competition between China and the US and the trade war between China and US is going to intensify in the days to come. China has emerged as one of the strongest players in the global economy, and China is trying their best to do the businesses in every sector, in almost every sector all over the world, and trying to beat other economies, other countries, and companies from China are actually very strong these days in almost every sector of the economy. So the fundamental point that you have to keep in mind is that survival versus success. It can be survival of any company, any organization, and survival versus success in case if you understand the recent developments, or if you know how the world is reshaping, you will be in a position to plan your organization's business strategies in an effective and scientific way, by way of looking at challenges and opportunities. For example, you need to be a competitive organization. Your company need to grow and achieve competitiveness. Competitiveness will help you to survive. If your company is not competitive, your company will fail in this ultra competitive time period. COVID-19 has temporarily created panic. However, I would expect that by January, everything will be normal, because vaccine will be available by December, and we will have normal life in 2021. Global economy is expected to shrink by 8% this year. Millions have filed unemployment benefits in America, and thousands have filed unemployment benefits in India too. In America, unemployment benefit is substantial. In India, unemployment benefit is not substantial. If you don't have a job in India, so you will have a tough time, because you get peanuts as unemployment benefits. American government has already given $1,000 to everyone who has job as well, as a benefit for compensating the loss of COVID-19. In any case, thousands of people have been laid off all over the world. And we have also seen that labor-intensive industries are already facing challenges. Any industry that is very much labor-intensive, they all face challenges because of COVID-19 social distancing guidelines. And people are scared. People need, so people have to wear masks, and then they have to wear gloves and all this kind of problems, and people are scared to meet others. The psychological fear that is coming out because of the social distancing guidelines these days, that create pressure on labor-intensive industries. For example, you can see restaurant industry. Restaurant industry all over the world are collapsing one by one. So, they are running short of business. Hotel industry, hotels. I live in a city where next to my apartment is a big beach with 5-star hotels. And almost all those 5-star hotels are empty for last 7 or last 8 months because of this COVID-19, because people are not traveling, and people are not traveling as tourists, people are not traveling as businessmen, so hotels are not getting business. These are all labor-intensive industries. There are several other labor-intensive industries also facing challenges. And many of these labor-intensive organizations have laid off their employees. They have already told their employees that we don't have enough business, so we cannot pay salary. So better we lay off our people, our employees. They're all facing at least, 1 or 2 years of challenge these days. COVID-19 has made companies search for opportunities necessary in order to survive. Companies need to, economy, business, politics, everything is related. So this is, they have to search for more and more opportunities these days. And this has also resulted into a new polarization in the global economy. The global economy is being divided under 2 leadership. Team 1, under the leadership of the United States, India is part of that team 1. Team 2, under the leadership of China, Pakistan is part of that team 2. Some of the African countries are also part of that team 2. And Japan is part of team 1. So likewise, we see team 1 and team 2 going to play. It is like two teams or two countries are playing cricket or football. The same way, two teams are going to play the game of world business with this COVID-19 polarization of economy. Because US cannot tolerate China. US government has already declared whether it is going to be Donald Trump or Biden going to be the next president of the US. Biden has more probability. So it doesn't matter whoever is going to be the president, but US is going to take certain actions against Chinese government and Chinese companies, and we are going to witness that, and we are going to see a lot of those kind of polarization in the global economy, trade wars in the global economy, deglobalization in the global economy. Last 20 years has been kind of time period for globalization. Globalization gathered momentum, and globalization really took off, and everyone was flying globally. Every company was doing global business. It was very easy to fly. It was very easy to do everything globally. But we are going to see those kind of changes. Next 5 years is going to be deglobalization time for many companies, which means they will cut short their global businesses. They might focus on regional businesses or national businesses. And because there will be more restrictions, there will be more tariff barriers or non-tariff barriers for doing international trade and such kind of transaction. There could be even some restrictions on foreign direct investment and so on. So when governments impose such kind of restrictions as an aftermath of polarization of the economies, which is arising out of COVID-19 crisis, because there is also politics behind it, So economics, politics, business, everything is related. The business is, the volume, the increase in business is actually dependent on normalness, or depending upon certain economic and political factors. So there has been setback on transaction taking place in the recent months after COVID-19. You can see 2020. 2020 is a real crisis year, and the novel coronavirus originated in November. We know that, and after that, it came to the US in January. And now US is the victim. And so let's look at what are the challenges that the small and medium enterprises going to face during the post-COVID-19 time, or during the new business era. Small and medium scale enterprises, they are the backbone of an economy. They are the backbone of Indian economy. They are the backbone of most other countries in the world. They face survival threat, and they face challenges because of COVID-19. Many SMEs, many small companies have ran short of cash or capital. This is a problem because many of them rely upon their monthly or weekly or daily income. So this is they do not have that for last 6 months, or their income is almost stopped because they are unable to get customers. If they don't have customers, they will not get enough business. Some of them have shut down their business operations in different countries. And this is a serious threat on small and medium scale enterprises. All over the world, many students, like graduates, for example, MBA students and all, they used to think that it is better to be an entrepreneur. It is better to be a businessman. But COVID-19 has actually created panic in the minds of businessmen, especially small and medium businessmen all over the world. They have no income now for last 6 months. Small industry is facing a huge challenge, or most of them, 90% of small companies, they are on the verge of collapse. regardless of the industry in which they are operating, especially in case someone is running a restaurant, his entire business is gone. Someone is running a retail store, his entire business is gone. And likewise, lot of other small businesses are also in trouble these days. So you can say that entrepreneurship is facing a big challenge these days. So there are, so the next 2 years or next 3 years, young people would not venture into entrepreneurship. Young people would always prefer to get a safe job for next or during next 3 years. That is going to be one of the important feature of new business environment, because many young people, but last 10 years, many young people preferred to be entrepreneurs because of globalization, because of global opportunities. There were a lot of opportunities. Everything was okay. The global economy was doing reasonably well. Indian economy was doing reasonably well. American economy was doing reasonably well. So everything was normal. So when everything was normal, there were a lot of people, a lot of young graduates, those who wanted to be entrepreneurs, that they sensed that there are a lot of opportunities, and then they were doing it. Like IIMs and all, like I go to IIM Kozhikode. IIM Kozhikode has given me distinguished professor title. So last time they paid my international efforts, kind of things. I spent a few months there, and they have an entrepreneurship cell. Entrepreneurship cell means the young graduates, they encourage them to be entrepreneurs. There used to be a lot of young graduates, those who wanted to be entrepreneurs, but now they will not prefer to be entrepreneurs because of uncertainty. Because this kind of uncertainty, entrepreneurs will not be in a position to generate enough income. So this will face problem, or they all face problems because of this kind of COVID-19 crisis or uncertainty crisis. Because during the recessionary time, entrepreneurs have tough time. So this also creates challenges for marketers. Anyone who is in a sales field, or any person who is a marketing manager or who is in sales field, they all have this same challenge because they have tough time during an uncertain time. This is like a business cycle, but this is a more serious business cycle, a real life pandemic situation. Companies have had to rethink their strategies to succeed in the new era or post-COVID-19 time. Yeah, so I have also developed a framework called the P framework. This P framework will help. These P constructs will help organization to implement some strategies to overcome these challenges and opportunities. There are opportunities for organizations focusing on information technology and digital marketing and so on. And every company has to think about digital marketing these days. Digital marketing has got more prominence because everything is online these days. And in case if your company has not yet started or ventured into online business, if you're running some business, you have to think about online business these days. Impact of COVID-19 and social distancing and so on. Social distancing lead to increasing importance for online transactions. This implies that companies focusing on online business will be winners because most customers prefer online purchase these days. But again, it is also a challenge for them to deliver online and all, everything online, because some of the grocery restaurants in my town where I live, they were unable to deliver because every customer was ordering online. So sometimes this kind of things, over demand or excess demand lead to problems. So yeah. Almost all businesses in travel and tourism sector will incur huge loss in the next 2 years. Next 2 years, if you look at travel and tourism sector, it's already last 6 months they have huge loss, so they are suffering from this crisis. And next 2 years is going to be tough time for this sector, travel and tourism industry. Everyone, those who have a job in travel and tourism industry will lose job or is likely to lose their job or likely to get half salary, or their salary will be affected adversely in the next 2 years. This includes travel agencies, monuments, restaurants and hotels located in tourist locations and so on. Yeah. So in my location, many restaurants have closed down permanently because of 2 months lockdown time. Like there's a very famous American cafe called Hard Rock Cafe. It's a 5-star cafe according to American standard. So I live next to Hard Rock Cafe, and Hard Rock Cafe is closed down because there was two months mandatory lockdown time, and after that they were not getting business, so they decided to close down. Impact on businesses these days, so impact of this crisis. This is an economic crisis. COVID-19 it started as a health crisis, but this health crisis now turned out to be an economic crisis. Economic crisis has also created a financial crisis. And the whole thing, health crisis lead to economic crisis, leading to financial crisis, leading to business crisis. This is the chain, or these are interrelated. So if you actually look at its impact on marketing on businesses, if you look at business specifically, you can also see that exclusive distribution of different goods is dead now. Companies need to think about intensive or selective distribution strategy. And customers would not prefer to pay for premium brands as part of saving strategy. Yeah. Many customers or many people, they want to save money now because they don't know what is going to happen next year. If you have a government job, if government is paying you a salary, then you are safe. You have a certainty. But otherwise, they don't know what happens, So I'll tell you an example. I have a friend. She is a lady professor at IIT Delhi. Her husband is an entrepreneur. Her husband has zero income for last 6 months. So she married him thinking that this gentleman will earn enough income, but he has no income. So his wife is unhappy with him now because of coronavirus crisis. So that means health crisis also lead to family crisis. So there are issues like that. Everything is related. So customers would not prefer to pay for premium brands as part of saving strategy. Yeah, premium brands. Premium brands are suffering in all sectors because people don't want to pay for premium brands. People just want to buy whatever they can get it at low price. So this is because people are not sure what is going to happen next year, next 2 years or next 3 years, whether they will be in a position to retain the same salary or same income during next 2 or 3 years. So they are saving money. This has adverse impact on premium brands, any premium brand. People are not buying. This is a crisis. This is a challenge. And brand managers of premium brands will have tough time for next 2 years. Even industries like newspaper industry is suffering, or newspaper industry is on loss now because they do not have income from advertisement. Newspaper industry used to make a lot of income from advertisement. But many companies have decided not to advertise now because companies are deciding not to spend money for advertisement because companies are not sure whether they can make enough return from the money that they spend for advertisements. So this is a challenge for them too. Yeah. Artificial intelligence will get more important. For example, robots. Yeah, artificial intelligence. This is getting more important these days. Even in hotels, you will see chatbots and so many things for check-in. Traditional check-in is going to be replaced by machine-based check-in in hotels. If you want to go and stay in a hotel, now for next 1 or 2 years, you can do automatic check-in. You don't need to meet people because hotels are replacing reception-based, people-based check-in to machine-based check-in using robots and chatbots and so many things like that. Food availability and security may be an issue. Hourly wage rate system will get more importance. Yeah, this is another change. All over the world, people used to get monthly salaries or yearly salaries. But now, all over the world, many employers, many organizations will decide to implement hourly wage rate system. Instead of paying monthly salary, many managers or many employers will decide to hire people with an hourly wage. When you hire, you will get an appointment letter stating that if you work 6 hours a day, your hourly salary will be this rate, let's say $3 per hour. In India, it could be $1 or $2 per hour. In America, it could be 10 or 20 hours per hour. And your salary will be calculated based on hourly wage. This is going to get more prominence instead of monthly salary system. As I mentioned before, world will be divided into 2 diplomatic teams under China and US. India will be with Pakistan. India will be with the US, and Pakistan will be with China. New challenges: hospitality industries are badly hit and will face serious problems during next 2 years. Airline industry is already suffering, and tourist location-based businesses are all suffering. Movie theaters will not get people for next 3 years. Education institutions also face some challenge because of this, but in any case, we are all expecting vaccine by December. Once vaccine is available, governments are going to ask everyone to have a mandatory vaccine, like we all have taken polio vaccine. The same way the COVID vaccine is going to be mandatory now. And in America, flu shot is also mandatory. It has been advisable. So like flu shot, COVID vaccine will also be mandatory. So once everyone takes that mandatory vaccine, then everything will be normal. Yeah, I'll tell you one example. I have a neighbor. They are Chinese. They run Chinese restaurant in my city. And because of COVID-19 crisis, their restaurant, they were not getting customers to their restaurant. 4 or 5 months, they did not make enough money to pay the leased properties rent. They leased the restaurant premises, and they have to pay rent for that every month to their landlord. They could not pay the rent for 4 or 5 months because they were not getting income. And landlord terminated the agreements of this restaurant property. And landlord, because landlord was not getting rent, simply means landlord terminated the agreement. And landlord could not pay back loan to the bank. Restaurant owner decided to close down the business. Landlord had taken bank to buy the property. Everything was like a chain. And as a result, finally restaurant closed down. Yeah. And there could be another change also. Academic institutions also will not hire new professors with permanent job offer for next 2 or 3 years. They will hire teachers with hourly salary or weekly salary or monthly salary instead of giving a permanent job offer. This is going to be the norm in every sector for next 3 years. That means the way we lived, the way we did our lot of things are likely to change now to a new paradigm, or new paradigms are emerging from permanent recruitment to hourly or monthly or weekly based recruitments. And international jobs are not going to be the day. It is also going to change. Many companies will not hire people from foreign countries next 2 years. They will hire people from their own country next 2 years. This is also going to be a major change. Yeah, I would like to present a framework for companies as a strategic framework, or I would argue that if companies or organizations use this framework, they can succeed in their businesses in the new economic environment, or considering the new changes, considering the new business environment, considering the uncertainty and risk. And this was a framework, or this is a framework which I developed along with Dr. Eric Maas from Texas University in America. And this framework was published in Journal of Strategic Marketing last year. And this framework is nothing but, this framework, we developed an equation. This equation, the total framework has 7 P constructs, and all the first 6 P's lead to performance. Performance is the dependent variable here. Suppose if we put it like a regression equation, performance is a dependent variable, and we put it like this: performance is a function of potential, path, process, pace, pattern, and problems. And we would also argue that performance you can achieve performance provided you understand and estimate your potential, your market potential. For example, your company's market potential, your company's potential in different markets. You have to understand that, you have to study that, you have to do research, and you have to estimate market potential in different markets. For example, if a company is based in Kerala, they have to understand the potential in other states or other countries, or within Kerala in different districts as well. Path refers to the growth path. What kind of company is yours? Is it a partnership company? How do you generate resources? For example, source of revenue for your company. How do you generate finance? Are you going to take bank loan to run your company? Are you going to list your company in stock market? Or are you going to get financing from venture capital and so on? So that is the path, growth path of your company. You have to understand that in advance. For example, each company needs to make a plan, like a business plan. So your business plan needs to be based on, need to be centered around on these key concepts so that you can achieve greater performance. That is the underlying assumption in this equation, or this framework is based on that assumption. And process and pace. Processes, what kind of processes my organization will follow to achieve performance? That's the question. Am I going to think about organic growth versus inorganic growth? Am I going to think about strategic alliances or versus independent businesses? Or I can grow based on my own strength, my own funds, that's called independent growth or organic growth. Or I can believe in interdependence and I can have several business partners and I can think about growth of the company using those kind of processes. So what are the processes that I'm going to follow? And pace. Pace refers to speed. Speed of doing businesses. So COVID-19, every company has slowed down. So every company has a first gear pace now. Pace you can also compare with how you drive your car. You know, your car, when you drive your car, it can be in first gear or it can be in fourth gear or it can be in fifth gear. So if you're driving your car in fourth gear or fifth gear, that means your pace is amazing. So companies can also be driven in fourth gear or fifth gear or first gear or second gear. So you have to decide your pace. And sometimes ideal pace could be third gear or fourth gear. It's not first gear or fifth gear. So you have to, because your goal is performance. So pace is also important. Pattern. Pattern means your organization's product portfolio or service portfolio. For example, if you are a lawyer, you might need to think about offering services as a civil lawyer as well as criminal lawyer, rather than just saying that I will only undertake civil cases. That means if your pattern include civil cases as well as criminal cases. And companies can also do the same thing. Companies can offer differentiated products. Like Toyota is offering 4 or 5 car models instead of just offering one model. So that is part of pattern strategy. And every company needs to have some pattern with respect to products and services. It can be done with product diversification, product differentiation, and services differentiation, product innovation, and service innovation, and so on. Innovation is the key there. Problems. You have to anticipate problems. Problems are part of life. Problems are part of businesses. Problems are part of economy. So if you want to achieve performance, it's not going to be 100% smooth. So you have to anticipate problems and you need to have strategies to overcome that problems. Some problems could be expected, some problem could be unexpected. So an organization, any type of organization, need to anticipate what kind of problems are likely to happen during next 2 years and what kind of problems are likely to happen next 3 years or 5 years. You have to foresee that problem. If you can foresee that problems and take precautions and have an alternative strategy, you can achieve greater performance and you would be a successful organization with much greater performance and much more returns for your businesses. So these are the 7P constructs, 7P framework, what I would like to introduce you to think about as an organization to survive and succeed. And since I have time constraint, we have one more speaker, and I would be also happy to answer some of your questions in case if you have any questions and if time permits. Thank you very much, Sister Rosie and Principal and other professors, Jean Maria and Franco, to host this session. And yeah, in case you have questions, I'd be happy to answer either now or after the next speaker. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. If you're okay, we will have the question and answer session after the talk of Sangeeta ma'am.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you, Justin Paul, sir, for your very informative words within a very short time, spotting all the different challenges as well as opportunities of the emerging new business environment. Thank you, sir. Now we have Dr. Sangeeta K. Pradap, Assistant Professor, School of Management Studies, Cochin University of Science and Technology, Kerala. Sangeeta ma'am will talk on COVID-19 impact on Indian economy and way ahead, with special reference to employment sector in this new business environment. Ma'am, we are very happy to have you here today with us as our resource person, and with great pleasure, I invite you for the session.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Reverend Principal, Christ College, Sister Rosie, Head of Department, Economic Department of Christ College, my fellow speaker, most renowned academician and author, Dr. Justin Paul. And first of all, let me place my heartfelt thanks to Christ College authorities who have considered myself suitable to deliberate on the topic. So my interest on today's deliberation will be on the COVID-19 impact on Indian economy and way ahead, but specific reference to the employment scenario, because I think I'm talking to a group of students and the job seekers who will be just looking for their jobs maybe in near future. So it's worthwhile. I think it is worthwhile to have a idea about how it is going to hit. And I'm specific to the Indian economy, though I have some certain references to the world economy. And let me say that this will be based on the reports that has been released during the recent time in India, and some sort of an interpretation on the basis of such kind of reports. And I'd like to say with an introductory note that the pandemic is taking its worst hit on India, and we are revising our numbers at every moment, both of those infected by the disease and that of economic growth. And with the commencement of this 2021 financial year, the effects of coronavirus have affected the stability and economy of not only India, but almost 150 countries all over the world, jeopardizing the lifestyle, economy, impacting businesses, and what else to say. And as we all know, these countries are having different strategies. Some had gone for a lockdown. India had gone for a total lockdown for 2 months plus. And there were countries which took up this pandemic straight away. They didn't have the lockdown. They tried to combat it as it is. And different strategies were taken up by the economies. But at the end, whatever be the strategy, the worldwide, the recession has hit. The economies following the pandemic, the transit has been stopped, and you have the economic activity dull. So there is a drastically falling GDP growth rates in the Q2, and the worldwide, the Q2 result has been declared, and the economists fear that it is the world is slowly advancing towards fear that it is actually a fear that it is advancing towards a depression, as had happened in the early part of this century. And the lockdown has severely affected. If you just take the case of India, the lockdown, what we call as the draconian time period, where we had only limited economic activity, and some sectors were severely affected, as I just joined with the other speaker, Dr. Justin Paul was telling about the several sectors which was affected worldwide, and in India also we had those sectors affected: the airlines, the travel and tourism, the food segments, particularly the Horeca segment, the hotel, restaurants, and caterers, totally busted. And but there are also segments, what I would conceive is that there are also segments which had gained during the pandemic. For example, the edutech segments. The Google Meet was also there before this pandemic, but nobody was using it, and Zoom was there. But what happened to these kind of things was that they made a large kind of a market. And and the segments which gained during the pandemic, like the data companies, the online delivery systems. Every single supermarket in your place will be having the online delivery, whatever be the kind of things they adopt, the tech kind of things what they adopt. But they are attempting for the online kind of a delivery mechanism, side by side to their physical store. They are setting up the digital kind of a market. Then else, I'm speaking about the online and mobile banking. Those who are reluctant to have this online kind and mobile banking, what has happened now? The physical banking is in a constraint, and you have that social distancing kind of a thing. What is happening? You have to do it, or otherwise you are under the threat of this contracting this COVID. So what happens is that automatically you are going for this online and mobile banking. This is particularly because why I'm telling this, because we had a research on this, and normally what happens is that the aged people are normally averse to using this online or mobile banking. But due to the heat of the pandemic, what has happened is that these aged people are more prone to contracting the COVID, and if they contract the COVID, they'll be having a severe situation. So what they do is that they are adopting norms of social distancing. So they are adopting whatever, whether it be online banking or mobile banking, whatever comes to avoid this COVID pandemic, they are adopting. So such kind of segments have taken a boost, what I would say. And at par with providing this health, safety, and medical sustenance, we will also have to think about, what are we going to eat after this pandemic? You have to take care of the health of this, sickening economy, mobilizing the resources, make plans for job creation and job continuity. Otherwise, it is going to be a severe disaster. We will have this employment crisis which is coming up, the unrest among the population, and whatnot. So this is a major crisis. What will be taken up or brought out by this pandemic, and the Q2 is now released, and we don't know what is the situation of Q3 or Q4 or the next year 2021, what is going to happen. And the RBI is also, the Reserve Bank of India is also telling that it is going to be, the economic growth is going to be minimal, and they're not telling about the figures because we are always we are revising the numbers. So there is no point in telling that it is going to be a depression kind of a thing, what is going to happen. So we have to just wait what will happen. So I think the time is very limited, so I'd like to have a synoptic view on how the economy will be affected based on some numbers what I have and the justifications which I can just give for such numbers. Okay, so and the economics predicts that there cannot be a total avoidance of the unprecedented depression, and it is almost definite to at least make its slightest hit. And what was that hit on the economy? Almost, I think, as economics students and economics teachers, you might be aware about the GDP figures which was released during the last month. And the Indian economic growth has suffered its worst fall in the April-June quarter Q2, with the gross GDP contracting by 23.9%. And this is the worst since India has reporting the quarterly data in 1996. And just take a situation of the world. World is also having similar situation. There is a UK following us by minus 21.7%, and France minus 18.9. Even the US is contracting by minus 9.1. Except barring China, the world's second largest economy, and all the other major economies have felt the negative impact of this coronavirus pandemic. And the Chinese economy grew by 3.2%. And most of the countries are experiencing their worst growth rates, similar to that of the 2008 economic crisis, or even worse situation. And you can see in the case of Japan, for example, I'll just take to explain it with the help of the case of Japan. When compared to the data which became available in 1980, and this is the most hit, the figures that Japan has ever experienced. Now, let me come back to the Indian situation. We could observe that there has been a severe repercussion of the COVID-19 on the Indian economy. And with a view to contain the spread of this COVID-19 pandemic, restrictions were imposed on the economic activities not deemed essential. Actually, we had a total lockdown in the first period till May, and as also for the movement of the people from 25th March 2020. And though the restrictions are being gradually lifted, there has been an impact on the economic activities as well as on the data collection mechanisms as well. And this is based on the reports that is being generated by the National Sample Survey Organization. And the GDP results, you might be aware of that again, and it is estimated to be the Q1 GDP results of 2021 is 26.90 lakh crore against 35.35 lakh crore in 1920, the previous year, the contraction of 23.9%. And actually, there is a mixed result of this economic, the prediction of this GDP contraction before. After this, the pandemic has hit India, the State Bank of India economic analysis had predicted that there will be a 16.5% contraction. The CARE ratings had predicted that the economy would shrink by 20.2%. The Barclays was expecting that the economy will be contracting by 25.5%. Goldman Sachs, they thought that the Indian GDP might shrink by 45% in the first quarter. So, somehow, anyway, it has come to a figure of 23.9. So, what are we heading to? No, it is not going to be a kind of a welcome situation in the next Q2, Q3, and Q4, because the vaccine is not out, and the economy is suffering from kind of situation where the businesses have lost their runways. You call it as a runway. In fact, 1 or 2 or 3 months, the businesses will be able to run without any profits at all. But after that, you are not having a runway. You are just going to nosedive into the deep delve. So that is the situation in India and how it is affecting. I'm not going for a sectoral, the analysis, because it would require a lot of time. But I would like to just put my analysis onto the employment in the organized and unorganized sector, which is actually an analysis based on the sectoral kind of an impact, in fact, and which is an outcome of the sectoral hit, what has happened. So I think I'll be able to just make through such kind of an analysis, and it's actually based on 2 or 3 reports which has been published. One is of course it is the NSSO reports which has come out during the last month. Another one is one of the reports which is given by the ILO and the Asian Development Bank, and that is regarding India as well as the Asia Pacific regions. And one more report what I would like to put before you is the CMI reports, the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy reports, which reports about the economy as well as in specific about the employment and how the sectors was affected during this pandemic. So I'd like to put it one by one before you. So first, I'll just go into the Asia Pacific crisis situation, including India, some other countries which comes in the Asia Pacific region. The ILO has conducted a study, and they reported that in 2019, the regional youth unemployment rate was 13.8 percentage in the Asia Pacific region, compared to 3% for adults. So already there is a problem with the Asia Pacific region. The youth are having a reporting, basic unemployment, And in the case of India also, this particular situation was existing. Before the lockdown itself, there was some kind of a reports coming up in India regarding the unemployment situation in India. It is the all-time high which has happened in India as well. So that's the case of all the countries. And in this report, they're telling about the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. And in India, they are reporting that as many as 41 lakh youth in India lost jobs due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So that is a very terrible situation. And they say that in India, the 2/3 of the firm level apprenticeships and 3/4 of the internships were completely interrupted during the pandemic. If you are an educator or if you are a student, you might have faced troubles in getting your internships. If you're an MBA student, you might have a requirement of doing your internship with the industry. And this time also in our place, also in QSAT also, we had that problem. And we had to adjust with the online kind of sessions, and even we had to go for adjustments and the kind of industry analysis what can be done as an assignment. So that kind of situation has arose, and we are making alternatives for that, but that my premise is that it will not suffice, or it will not substitute the original kind of organizational internship what a student is supposed to have. So the pre-crisis challenges for the youth are now amplified since the COVID-19 has hit. And without sufficient attention, our fear is that the risk creating a lockdown generation that is also expected. So the youth who are educated at this particular point of time will be just termed as a lockdown generation. What is that going to be? And that is being projected by the report, and how that education has gone across the sectors, whether it is good or bad. So that's the kind of thing what we have to ponder upon as we are all dealing with the education segment. And the report cites 3 ways in which the young people are affected in the current crisis. And these job disruptions, actually I'm speaking about the job disruptions, are in the form of reduced working hours and earnings, the job losses for the paid workers and the self-employed, the disruptions in their education and training, the difficulties in transitioning from school to work and moving between jobs and recession. These are all things what we all are facing. We are all seeing the job losses what is happening, and we are all finding it difficult to get a job. So this is going to be true for India or any other country, whether it be the Asia Pacific region or not. So this is going to be the same. And according to the report, they are also citing some reason that the young people in the Asia Pacific region face greater labor market disruption and job losses than the adults. The report is suggesting that there are 4 sectors hardest hit by the crisis. These sectors are the wholesale and retail trade repair, the manufacturing, rental and business services, and accommodation, the food services. So practically speaking, if these sectors are the more affected, those people who are employed in these sectors are going to get the brunt of it. And the young women are overrepresented. It is particularly noted in the report that the young women are overrepresented in these 3 of the 4 most affected sectors, particularly in accommodation and the food services, and there is going to be a gendered impact as well. And compounded by the forced suspension of education and training, the COVID-19 crisis will affect the young people's transitions to and within the labor markets. It's going to be sure, whether you accept it or not, that is going to be sure. And the people are facing what is called as depression. The students are in trouble, they are facing the depressions, and they have to just think of alternative methods of you have to think about the gig economy. You have to think about how you will be putting your how you will be enhancing your CV, and how you can enrich your experiences, enrich your learning in this COVID-19 situation. And coming to the Indian situation, I would like to put some figures which is also reported by the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, which gives a clear picture about the Indian employment. It gives a clear picture about the Indian employment crisis during the lockdown, post lockdown as well. And during the lockdown, it was estimated that there was a loss of 121.5 million jobs were forfeited because no economic activity was there. And in April 2020, when this survey was conducted by the CMI, this was the figure 121.5 million jobs. But this you can see that this job loss was narrowed down to 100.3 million in May. So the job loss reported in May is 100.3, and then dramatically to much smaller 29.9 million in June. Of course, this explains the whole thing because in the lockdown period, you don't have any economic activity, and after the lockdown was lifted, everything is coming back. Somehow or the other, the people are under the impression that they have to eat something. So you have to do a job. So whatever be the situation, whether it be COVID or not, by accepting, the social distancing methods, you will have to just go for the job. Okay. And the July 2020 saw a further reduction of this job loss to 11 million. That explains the whole thing. While in April, 30% of the employed person had lost their employment. By July, everything was recovered. Only 3% were bereft of their social livelihood. So everything is coming back. But this is a whole situation. But what has happened is that several sectors were badly hit, but several sectors gained, and that is why the total situation is showing up like this. And there is a difference between the organized and the unorganized sector. So how this came about, that is a very interesting thing to be pondered upon. So if you just look at what happened to the small traders, hawkers, the daily wage laborers, whom you can just consider as the unorganized sector, they were the worst hit by the lockdown in April. And what I said, the other figure I was just speaking about, 121.5 million jobs lost in that month. 91.2 million were from this sector. And this category of employment accounted for almost about 32% of the total employment. And it suffered the 75% hit. They didn't have any money at all. And large numbers of these people lost their livelihood so quickly because the employment is almost entirely informal. They have an employment in hand only when the economy around them is humming. When the economy shut down, they lose the employment. When it comes back, they get the employment. So similarly, what happened was that when the economy unlocked in steps, these jobs, that is the small traders, the hawkers, the daily wage laborers, almost they came back. And out of this 91.2 million jobs lost in April, 14.4 million came back in May, 44.5 million came back in June, 25.5 million came back in July. Only 6.8 million is expected to return. So only the loss that is reported in this particular segment is only 6.8 million. Now, when it comes to entrepreneurs, okay, many entrepreneurs have also declared themselves as unemployed during the lockdown. As Dr. Justin Paul was speaking, they have lost their runways. There is only one, in many of the sectors, what has happened is that they don't have any economic activity at all, and they have to give the rent for their, rented spaces without having any income. There are a lot of, even in the case of the small entrepreneurs, this has happened. Just think of the Kudumbashree, what we have in Kerala. A lot of ladies, they are running beauty parlors. What happened to the beauty parlors? They are running in the rented spaces. Whether you run the beauty parlor or not, you have to give the rent for that. So at the end of the day, you have a bank loan to be repaid, and you have to give a rent for that, and you don't have, anything like, something, an income which is coming in. So this is going to have a hard hit. And this entrepreneurs also includes the business men who owns the fixed assets and hire people for the business purposes. Qualified self-employed professionals like practicing doctors, lawyers, and accountants, and other self-employed entrepreneurs like taxi operators. And these collectively are an estimated 78 million, and they account for about 19% of the total employment. And 18.2 million of these have declared themselves unemployed in April. But most of this, according to the figures that is reported by the Center for Monitoring of Indian Economy, almost all of them have come back to employment in July 2020. Their behavior has been similar to that of the small traders and the daily wage laborers. They are trying to, push it forward. But there might be difference in the sectors. I'm coming to that later on. Okay, so the recovery in the jobs reflects to a great extent an unlocking of an economy from the draconian cessation of the practically all economic activities, save a few in the late March and through most of the April. Perhaps it is also reflecting the desperation of Indians to get back to some employment after a rather prolonged involuntary break. Okay, so that was a 2 months of a complete lockdown, and what the people had thought is that they have to start something or the other. They have to eat something. So the people are quickly coming back to the kind of a job. So the recovery, what I was speaking is largely in the case of informal jobs. The situation has worsened for relatively better jobs. So that is a different kind of a story. That is for the salaried jobs. While jobs have recovered, this recovery has left out healthier this salaried jobs. So we will just look out onto two specific sectors. So it was interesting for me to just find out this recovery kind of a thing. So usually when we speak about this agriculture sector, we speak about the job losses. People are running away from agriculture, but during this pandemic situation, you can see that there was an extraordinary rush to farming. According to estimates from the Consumer Pyramids Household Survey, there were 111.3 million people who declared their occupation as farming in 2019-20. And this estimate has risen to 117 million in March 2020. It's an unprecedented increase. We always hear about people running away from agriculture, shifting from agriculture. And this has remained in April as well. So during the lockdown, one specific sector to which the people shifted was definitely agriculture. There is never any loss of employment in farming. Now what could be the situation? So this situation is that, of course, there was migration out from agriculture. If you get a better job, you leave agriculture and you accept what is known as a job which is giving you wages or a better wages. But what has happened during this lockdown is that they have the people who have lost jobs have migrated back into the farming. So that has given this kind of a situation. This explains why the lockdown has practically no impact on the farm employment or a better impact on the farm employment. In May, the employment of the farming inched up to 108.5 million. So an increase from 111.3 million to 118 million. And in June, the farm employment zoomed up to 130 million. Okay, definitely encouraging. And good rains. And if you see the GDP, the agriculture GDP has increased. The sectoral contribution of agriculture has increased thanks to the rain and the climate, and Indian farming is totally dependent upon the rain-fed. You can call it as a rain-fed farming, and thanks to the good the climate which has happened, and so that's the case of this sector. Now, the second story that is contrary to the convincing recovery in employment, what I was speaking about, the informal sector recovery, there was a dismal performance of the salaried employees. And the salaried employees have taken the biggest sustained hit in the current COVID-19 induced lockdown. The salaried jobs were estimated at 86.1 million in 2019-20. And in this April, this fell to 68.4 million. So by July, the count has again fallen to 67.2 million. And India, that before the lockdown itself, there was a unemployment situation which is being reported. In India, the salaried jobs have stagnated in the recent times. In 2017-18, they have grew by 1.6%. Then in 2018-19, they grew by a meager 0.1% before contracting by 1.8% in 2019. So already there was something which was bad happening to the salaried employment sector. And when the COVID impacted, the result is huge. And we can see that while all kinds of work are equally honorable, the jobs have a qualitative pecking order. For example, a regular salaried job is better than an informal arrangement of employment in the unorganized sector. And in the context of all major employment types discussed here, the salaried employees is that most preferred. If you just ask any MBA guy who is studying over there, I used to just ask them, because I am totally a person who is oriented towards entrepreneurship. So I teach entrepreneurship development, and I usually try to find any person who will be interested in starting their enterprise. And even we give a lot of motivating sessions for guys to take up this entrepreneurship. We have all those students responding at the end of the day that I want a government job. So what is the point in studying kind of business administration kind of a thing? After, if you are sorting, I used to say, tell them, if you are just after the government job, you go for a PSC coaching. That's a good thing what you can do. Or otherwise you will have to just aim high for bigger kind of options. Now let me come back to the point. And only 21% of all employment in India is in the form of salaried employment, and they are more resilient to economic shocks than a daily wage labor. And as a result, the job losses among them accounted for only 15% of the job losses in April. So it was a small kind of a sector. But what happened was that 17.7 million salaried jobs were lost in April 2020. An additional 0.1 million jobs were lost in May. Then 3.9 million were gained in June. But 5 million jobs were lost in July. On the net basis, the plight of the salaried employees has worsened since lockdown began. And in April, almost, the 17.7 million jobs, but the July losses has swelled to 18.9. And while the salaried jobs are not lost easily, once lost it is very difficult to retrieve it, and therefore the ballooning numbers are a source of worry. The salaried jobs were nearly 19 million short of their average in 1920. Now there were 22% lower than their level in the last fiscal year. Now, while informal jobs have returned and even increased after being hit by the lockdown, the formal jobs have not. Non-salaried forms of employment have increased from 317.6 million in 2019-20 to 325.6 million. But this is a kind of situation what is happening. So that is what I have to say about the formal and the informal sector employment, what has happened. To add to what I have said, something which is interesting in the sense that what has happened to sectors. This we say about as a blanket kind of a thing, that is the employment in different sectors, whether it has increased or decreased. Now, if you take the sectors, the sectoral impact shows a different thing. And you get this from the financial statements of the listed companies. And as the financial statements of the quota entered June 2020 for the 1,560 companies were available in the CMI's prowess database for the last weekend. But in this, only a third of all companies that usually provide the data every quarter, but the data availability is slightly low because the last date has been extended to September 15. So the report such kind of a reports has to come out. So based on whatever data is available, you can see that the wage bill of this 1,560 listed companies had recorded a 2.9% increase. Now, what are you speaking about? So increase, but there is a problem with that increase. 2.9% increase. This is the lowest growth in wages recorded by the listed companies in the past 18 years, right? So what is this revealing? The data is again revealing a lot of things. So I would say that this is not this is only a preliminary result of the data which is being extracted out of the Prowess database. A better picture will be coming in a month or so. But certainly this is indicating a pattern with the preliminary data. Okay, so I would say that if you just analyze the sectors within manufacturing, we can just analyze the manufacturing and the services sector. Within manufacturing, the textiles has been the biggest hit. The wages fell by 29%. And mind you, textiles is a labor-intensive industry. And this sharp fall in the wage bill implies a very sharp fall in the employment in the industry. The same holds true for the leather industry. It is a labor intensive industry. This recorded a 22% fall in the wage bill in the June 2020 quarter. Automobile ancillaries reported a 21% decline in its wage bill. And the automobile's wage bill was, again, it is it is a labor intensive industry. And again, if you take the wage bill of the real estate sector, it was down by 21%. Real estate sector is also had a huge hit, and the wage bill is down by 21%. Again, if you take the services sector has a mixed bag. As I was telling, some of the sectors in the services sector, for example, in the case of the online kind of affairs, you had the data companies had a big leap. The online platforms just like Zoom and everything gained. So in the services sector, if you just take the case of tourism, the wage bill of tourism industry down by 30%. Hotel and restaurants down by 20.5%, the road transport down by 27.6%, and education by 28%. But if you take the case of banks, other kind of a service segment, you can see that there was a 16.6% increase in their wage bill, and the securities broking company saw a 13.5% increase in theirs. And but the manufacturing companies in total, if you are just taking it, is saw a 7% fall in their wage bill. And the wage bill of the telecom sector, in the case of service sector, again coming back to telecom sector, you can see that the wage bill increased by 10.7%. So the service industry represents a mixed bag. The travel and tourism, the worst hit, and you have the other sectors which are doing fairly well. And so there can be inter-industry variation. At the end of the day, if you are trying to match this, you will have a total figure without much variation. So that is the case of when you analyze the job losses. And coming to how do we, so my analysis of how the employment hit has happened in different sectors, and how the total employment would look like, and what are we looking at in future. So as Dr. Justin Paul was speaking about, maybe in December vaccine would come, and we would be out into the economy. So what is going to be there in future? How the government will be just able to find a new workplace for all these people who are going to come out, who are also all these people who are going to graduate out of the colleges, and who are those who are having the skills, who are lost their employment. All these are very big questions to be dealt with. Already we are in trouble in the sense that these job losses, ultimately, if the government is not giving a support, it will be leading to the kind of unrest what can happen in a country. So the government always should be just looking at protecting the workers in the workplace, some kind of stimulation to the economy and the employment, the unemployment wages, as Dr. Justin Paul was speaking about the US unemployment wages, unemployment benefits are pretty good enough. But in the case of India, we know that it is only peanuts. We'll be finding it difficult, and the governments actually have to just support the people in kind. What has happened during the lockdown, we got the kits, the food kits from the government. So that kind of things, and money has to be released to the people rather than just concentrating on just trying to give the job to the people. Because the money has to come into the people, they have to live, and they have to have that purchasing power. Only then money will come to the market, and it's going to be a vicious circle. Unless the money is coming, the demand is created in the market, how the businesses are going to survive? And unless there is a demand, the production is not going to happen, and unless the production is not going to happen, the economy is not going to revive. So this kind of things the government has, at this particular point of time, when the pandemic has not left the space, left the platform, we will have to be protective for the people in the country. We know that India is not a rich country, but still the government has to just bring up the strategies that would be protecting the people in the country. Already we had a fiscal stimulus, and the economists are in two kind of arguments. It was estimated to be 2% of the GDP, but most of it was estimated to be a monetary kind of a stimulus, the monetary policy kind of a stimulus, just like reducing the rates of interest, or kind of relaxing the loans, and increasing the moratorium period for the loan repayment. So that is not going to help the common man or the small businesses. So there has to be some kind of a situation which will be giving a fiscal stimulus in a sort of kind of activity which has happened to the other day. I think I was just attending a webinar where they were speaking about printing money to and giving to people. So that has to be opted by the government, because this is a worst hit situation where the people are striving it very hard to just survive themselves. Then another thing is that they should be given the social protection and supporting employment retention, the short-term work, the paid leave, subsidies, kind of a thing. And one thing what the Indian government has brought about is relaxing the labor norms. Now again, that was a kind of a measure which was brought to support the industries to survive during the lockdown period. But such kind of a measure, whether it will be good for the laborers in future, that has to be that is also a kind of a thing what we have to just ponder upon. Again, a lot of things has to be financial and tax relief, including micro, small and medium enterprises. At the most worst hit would be the micro and small and medium sized enterprises, who would be actually losing their runways, would find it difficult to repay the loans. And again, the banking sector is the next sector which is going to be hit by the NPS. Again, the NPS, and that is also a one very big topic to be discussed upon. So this is all vicious circle. So how do we get out of it? That is again something which has to be pondered on by the government, state and central government. And we are just expecting another relief measure, and the government sources are telling that they are waiting for the vaccine to come up. And once the vaccine is coming up and the economic activity is in the full-fledged situation, they'll be announcing the fiscal stimulus, next fiscal stimulus package, and we hope that that will be benefiting the economy, and will be having some kind of a boost to the employment, the economic activity picking up and the employment picking up, and will be having a better future as the economic trend. And thank you for the patient listening. And I think I'll be stopping right now, and I'll be happy to take the questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your very enlightening words. Again, I should say, within a very short span of time. You made us to think about different aspects with respect to India's economy related to the pandemic situations that we are facing now, focusing particularly upon the employment situation of the economy, especially in this unexpected circumstance due to COVID-19 crisis. Thank you, ma'am. Now, it's the time of the participants. Dear participants, it's time for you to ask your questions and doubts to our resource persons. Both of our speakers are here for your questions. You may please unmute your audio and raise questions. Participants can ask questions. We are short of time, so please, if you have any some suggestions, you can tell it here now itself.
Hello, hello, ma'am. Hello,
Oh, yes.
sir. I think I'm audible.
Yes, sir. Can you please tell your name and ask your question?
My name is Sudev V.S. And my question is that we discussed about many opportunities and crises and all the things we face in the COVID-19 situation today. I like to know the thought, the impression of the respected teachers to about the industry of direct selling and its potential on this COVID period. How as a business area, how it will boost our economy.
Okay, so you want me to answer that, or?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll try to answer.
Yeah.
Direct selling is a challenge in the social distancing time, right? So digital selling or digital marketing is relatively easy, and direct selling is on the other side. Direct selling is completely different from digital marketing or digital sales. So direct selling means you have man-to-man contact. So this is a challenge, right? So this is because people-to-people contact is not encouraged during this social distancing time, and social distancing will be taken away by the end of this year. So